pause for a moment. There's no need to rush, no need to try to understand. Please listen and allow these words to resonate with you as gently as a breeze passing over a tranquil lake. We often say, "They made me angry. He hurt me. She made me sad." Those seemingly harmless sentences hide a very subtle illusion of the mind that the emotions inside us are controlled by other people. Since childhood, we've been taught that our feelings are the result of other people's actions. We have the right to feel sad if someone is distant. If someone insults us, we are entitled to be angry. If someone leaves, we are entitled to feel hurt. And so, day by day, little by little, we learn to hand over the key to our inner world to someone else's hands. Just a single frown from someone, and our heart is shaken. A casual remark can cause our inner world to crumble. Just one unexpected action, and we feel betrayed. We call that a natural human reaction, but in truth, it is an invisible dependency we don't even notice. Have you ever wondered the emotions we claim are caused by someone else are actually just echoes of the parts within us that haven't healed? A person can only make you angry if that anger already exists in you. A word can only hurt you if inside you there is already a wound waiting to be touched. We are not angry because they were mistaken. We are angry because they touched the fear we've been trying to hide. We are not sad because they left. We are sad because we have never learned how to stay with ourselves, and then we blame the world. We blame our partner, our parents, our job, and society for our sadness. We say, "I'm tired because of everything outside." But if we look honestly, we'll see everything outside is only a mirror reflecting the unrest within us. Like blaming a mirror for reflecting our face, we become angry with others because they reveal what we refuse to see. We fear the people who hurt us, but in truth, they are only showing us the place within that has not yet been accepted. And that is the very first moment of truth. No one can make us suffer. No one can take away our peace. They only touch the part of us that is still resisting. True peace doesn't come from making the world quiet, but from no longer reacting blindly to the world. Like a lake, waves only rise when the wind blows, but the nature of water never loses its clarity. If we are still enough to observe, we will see anger come and then go. Sadness comes and then goes. But the one who notices those emotions has never been swept away. So before saying, "Someone hurt me," pause and ask, what wound in me did they touch? What part of me is demanding others to heal it? Perhaps the battle was never out there. Perhaps it has always been here, between us and the part of ourselves we still fear to face. When you begin to realize that no one can truly make you suffer, something strange will happen. A wave of resistance will rise within you. The rational part says, "Yes, that's true." But the emotional part reacts violently. "No, I'm hurting because they were really wrong. They hurt me, they betrayed me, they insulted me, and they deserve to be blamed." That is the resistance of the ego, the part of us that still wants to believe that our pain has a clear culprit outside of ourselves. Because if there's no one left to blame, we must face the absolute responsibility for our emotions. And that is what the mind fears most. So instead of accepting, we begin fighting our emotions. We try to suppress them, try to appear calm, and try to maintain positive energy. We tell ourselves, "I have to control my emotions. I have to be strong." But within that control lies a subtle trembling, a nameless tension that exhausts us without our knowing why. Have you ever tried to stay silent while your heart is in turmoil? The more you suppress, the higher the waves rise. The more you try to be peaceful, the louder your inner world screams. Because true peace is not forced silence, but the natural silence that appears when we no longer fight. People often misunderstand what strength means. We think being strong is not letting anyone hurt us, but in truth, being strong is having the courage to look directly at the hurt without running away. Sometimes, to truly be at peace, we must allow anger to rise, allow sadness to flow, allow tears to fall, not to surrender but to release the energy trapped inside. What causes our suffering is not the emotion itself, but the battle between us and the emotion. Emotions are not negative. They are simply ocean waves. The problem is that we keep trying to become a concrete wall in the middle of the sea. We strain ourselves to keep everything okay, but the more we try to hold things together, the more we crack. We are worn out, not because the emotions are too strong, but because we've spent too long resisting ourselves. Perhaps it is time to stop trying to control emotions and learn to observe them, to allow them to come and go like rain, like wind, like seasons. Neither holding on nor running away is necessary. Because true peace does not come from preventing the waves from rising, but from realizing that we are the ocean, the place where waves are allowed to exist. There's a tiny moment, very fragile, but if you can see it, it can change your entire life. It is the moment between stimulus and response, between hearing someone say something and reacting with emotion. That moment lasts less than a second. However, it is the boundary between unconsciousness and freedom. Most people never notice it. They hear and instantly react, hear criticism and immediately defend it, hear a compliment and instantly become excited, hear an insult and instantly explode. As if inside us there's a pre-programmed switch. Touch it and it ignites, provoke it and it angers. And so we live like a reaction machine. We act as if we are a mirror that lacks awareness, simply reflecting whatever comes into our path. The faster we react, the more we think we are being authentic. But the truth is, we are only living through survival instinct, not awareness. Try observing. When someone says something that upsets you, before you react, there is always a very tiny pause, a blink, a breath, a heartbeat. If you can stop right there, just for 1 second, your inner world will begin to change. Because in that moment, you are not yet the emotion. You are only seeing it about to form. You are no longer the one being pulled away by anger, sadness, or fear, but the one witnessing them rising. And in that very moment, true freedom begins. You realize that between what happens and your reaction, there isn't a mandatory chain of reflexes. There is a choice. You can choose to say nothing. You can choose to smile, or simply choose to breathe. It may sound small, but that is the power of an awakened person. The world leads those who have not noticed this gap. Those who recognize it begin to lead their inner world. Anger may come, but you are no longer swallowed by it. Fear may appear, but you no longer tremble. You become the space through which emotions pass, not the one controlled by them. And then, one day you realize, not every event in life has meaning. Only when we assign meaning to it does it gain the power to make us suffer. A word, if you do not pick it up, remains just a sound dissolving in the air. An action, if you do not attach a story to it, remains simply a movement of life. Freedom is not when the world becomes silent. Freedom is when you can be in the world without being carried away. Amidst the noise, you can still hear your heartbeat. Try recalling the last time you were frustrated. If in that moment you paused for just one breath, you would have noticed something strange. That anger didn't need you to fight it. It only needed you to see it without stepping into its role. The moment you stop reacting, the energy of anger naturally falls away. This is akin to a flame that has run out of fuel. And in that quiet space, you touch the inner freedom where waves rise but the heart remains still. There's a habit almost everyone has, but very few are awake enough to notice it. We pick everything up. A comment someone makes, an indifferent glance, a small remark, an old memory. We pick all of it up, carry it into the home of our mind, place it in the cabinet of memory, and sometimes keep it there for years. We pick up sadness and occasionally take it out to look at it again. We pick up anger and hold it tightly as proof that we were once hurt. We even pick up humiliation, because deep down, we still want to prove that we deserve to be acknowledged. And so, inside us, we become a room filled with emotional trash. The more there is, the heavier we feel. The more we cling, the more exhausted we become. And we call that me. But pause for a moment and ask yourself, might it be necessary for you to hold on to all of that? If someone calls you a fool, their words exist in their mouth for only a few seconds. But if you pick them up, they stay in your mind for years. Do you see? It is not they who make you suffer. It is you who agreed to take it. You turn a sound into a wound, a moment into a story. You have the ability to transform an opinion into a fact. And then, every time you remember it, you hurt yourself all over again. No one insults you as much as the way you repeat that insult in your mind. Letting go does not mean ignoring. It means refusing to pick up new trash. Someone speaks, the wind passes, and you let it go. This is not a sign of weakness, but rather a testament to your strength in choosing not to react. Anger, in truth, needs only one thing to survive: your participation. If you stop fueling it, it extinguishes on its own. Like a flame without wind, it fades into its ashes. Imagine this. You are standing in the middle of a noisy crowd. People throwing words around, bumping into each other, arguing and judging. And you are simply standing still, like a lake without ripples. Not because you are indifferent, but because you understand that nothing is worth keeping. Not every thought needs to be believed. Not every emotion needs a reaction. Not every word needs a response. Letting go is not something you do, but something you stop doing. Stop doing the things that tire your mind. Stop reacting. Stop interpreting. Stop replaying the old story. Because each time you choose not to pick something up, a piece of freedom returns to you. You become lighter, calmer, and gradually you realize peace does not come from controlling the world, but from stopping the attempt to control yourself. You don't need to cover your ears to avoid noise. You only need to stop letting your mind become the speaker that amplifies that noise. The world is still loud, but you are no longer the one chasing every echo. You begin to understand. Everything can come and go, and you only need to stay. There is a strange stage in the journey of awakening when you begin to feel calmer, understand more, and believe you have overcome it. But right at that moment, a more subtle illusion begins to appear. You start to believe that because you have changed, because you have learned to observe your emotions, because you now know how to let go, breathe, and understand. Others should be the same. You begin to expect that the world will also become awakened, so others will know how to behave kindly, speak gently, and no longer be selfish or impulsive. But then reality arrives like a cold mirror. They still lie. They still forget promises. They still react, still get angry, still judge. And you, despite understanding so much about peace, still feel waves rising inside. In that moment, a question echoes within. Why haven't they understood yet? Why is this world so unreasonable? Those questions seem harmless, but in truth, they are the ego's trap hidden beneath the surface of awareness, because within them still lies the demand that the world must function according to our expectations. A form of "I'm right" dressed in the clothing of "I understand." Do you see the contradiction? One part of us knows, I cannot control anyone, but another part still quietly hopes, at least they should know better. And that "at least" is the source of countless forms of suffering. Because the truth is, no one signed your contract of proper behavior. No one is obligated to act reasonably, to love, or to be grateful, just because you do. They are living by their own rhythm, sometimes distorted, sometimes immature, but it is still their journey, not yours. We often think we are angry because others are not good, but deeper down, we are angry because the world does not follow the image we've created of it. We want life to be logical, fair, and understandable, because that makes us feel safe. But life never promised that. The world was not born to comfort us. It was born to reveal where we are still dependent on false order. Like wanting a cat to bark because today we feel like hearing a dog, we want others to behave reasonably because we are in a mood that desires peace. And when they don't, we feel disappointed. Not because they are wrong, but because we are still clinging to the belief that the world must align with us. Try observing. How many times have we suffered, not because something serious happened, but because of a should have? They should not have said that. They should have understood. Life should have been fairer. The phrase should have is the seed of all suffering, because each time we say should have, we are comparing reality with a version inside our minds and rejecting what is happening right before us. But life has never followed our logic. It only follows its truth. And if we dare to look directly, we will see. Within life's absurdity, there is a profound order, a rhythm only those who are still enough can perceive. Perhaps the person who lies is reflecting the part of us that once feared telling the truth. The one who betrays is teaching us the lesson by letting go of control. The indifferent one is reminding us to learn how to love ourselves. When you look at life with that perspective, you no longer need the world to make sense, because every absurdity is already making sense in its own way through awakening. And that is the turning point. When we stop demanding the world to change, the world within us begins to change instead. There's a very strange moment on the path of awakening when you suddenly pause in the middle of all the expectations, the demands, the should-haves, and realize that nothing has ever truly gone wrong. The one who lies is still learning honesty. The one who is cold is still learning how to love. The one who is selfish is still learning how to share. And you are the one witnessing all of this, are learning how to be at peace without needing anyone to be different. In that moment, the first thing that appears is not tears, but laughter. A very soft laughter, like when you suddenly understand a joke you once took too seriously, because you realize that for so many years, you turned yourself into a victim of should have. You chased after a world that made sense, forgetting that life itself was born to defy logic. A tree does not question why it rains. Rain does not wonder why the earth is dry. Only humans in our pride called consciousness want the world to follow our personal blueprint. But when we have been exhausted long enough, when we have argued more than enough, and when we finally see that no one wins those battles, a space suddenly opens within. This is the space of acceptance. From there, we begin to see that everything is actually quite endearing. Someone's clumsiness suddenly becomes understandable. Their mistakes turn out to be just an immature version of who we once were, and what once hurt us the most becomes the kindest teacher of our lives. Then, you no longer need others to apologize in order to forgive, because you understand. Forgiveness is not letting it go, but seeing the foolishness within yourself and smiling. You start to laugh when someone is irritable, not because you mock them, but because you remember how many times you were exactly the same. You laugh when the world is chaotic, because you know chaos is simply a phase of order being born. This laughter is not loud. It is gentle, akin to the wind, yet profound, akin to wisdom. It does not come from the mouth, but from a heart that has stopped resisting. And when you laugh, everything that once felt heavy suddenly becomes transparent. You look at people, look at life, and realize that everyone is learning. Only souls are learning to love in different rhythms. Freedom is not the absence of emotion, but the ability to see everything without needing it to change. There is no necessity for victory, improvement, or correctness, just to see and to smile. It is the laughter of someone who understands that everything is precisely where it needs to be. A laugh that is not mocking, not bitter, but warm, like a sunrise after a long, stormy night. Because in the end, you realize this world was never made to make you happy. It was made to awaken you. And once you awaken, you no longer need the world to be calm, because you are calm. When we begin to understand life a little more, learn how to observe our emotions, learn to let go, to accept, a very pleasant feeling appears. I have become more mature than others. That is the moment the ego returns, but this time, it is no longer loud. It wears the robe of the knowledgeable one. We begin to feel that we are deep, that others are reacting shallowly, and inside we quietly say, I've outgrown that stage. We smile when others lose their temper. But in that smile lies a small, very subtle arrogance that we do not notice. The ego has many forms, but the most dangerous form is the one disguised in light. It no longer screams or argues, it simply whispers, I know better. And so, while thinking we are walking out of the maze, we are only walking deeper into a new maze, a more delicate maze with walls built from righteous reasoning. We think we are seeking truth, but in reality, we are only trying to prove that we are not wrong. We listen, but not to understand. Rather, prepare our rebuttal. We say, I am calm, but beneath that calm is the fear of being considered weak. The more convinced we are that we are right, the more we close ourselves off to other perspectives. The more we defend our viewpoint, the farther we drift from truth. Because truth belongs to no one. It only visits hearts empty enough to receive it. So whenever you discover yourself upset because someone is wrong, try pausing and asking, am I protecting the truth or just protecting my image within that truth? Because sometimes we are not afraid of being wrong. We are afraid of being seen as wrong. And that fear holds us back, making us lose the beauty of listening and the lightness of not needing to win. Have you ever noticed every time you must be right, someone else must immediately be wrong? Every time you win the argument, someone else must lose. And so the world divides again. Me and them, right and wrong, both the awakened and the unaware, are present. But truth does not divide. It does not choose sides. It is like light shining on both the flower and the garbage, without needing anyone to acknowledge it. When you stop needing to be right, you finally begin to understand. When you stop defending your viewpoint, your heart finally has space to listen. Because true understanding does not come from knowledge, but from humility. There are those who speak little, yet in their silence lies an ocean of wisdom. And there are those who say everything correctly, yet every word makes their soul heavier. We do not need to be correct in order to find peace. We only need to stop fighting in order to protect the ego that insists on being right. Because true peace doesn't arrive after we win an argument, but when we realize there is nothing left to prove. At some point, you will realize, no matter how beautiful, how correct, or how profound they are, all words are just sounds passing through the air. This world is overflowing with voices. People speak of love, of wounds, of truth, of beliefs, and of their own version of rightness. However, very few people take the time to listen to the silence that exists between those words. Silence, the place where there is no justification, there is no need to understand, no hunger for recognition, is where truth hides. How many times have you heard an insult? And your heart immediately trembled, not because the words were powerful, but because a part of you believed they were true. If someone calls you a fool and you do not believe that, their words will fall to the ground like a stone with nothing to cling to. But if there is a small corner in you that once feared you were not excellent enough, those words will strike that very spot, and you will feel hurt, not because of them, but because of a part of you that is not yet healed. We often think others hurt us, but in truth, they only name what already exists within us. And we, in our unconsciousness, pick up those sounds, carry them home, place them on our heart, and call them wounds. Imagine this: a person standing in the middle of a storm of words surrounded by opinions, judgments, praise, and criticism, yet they do not react because they hear, but because they no longer believe words have the power to define them. Because they know the words of others do not speak about them, but rather reflect the mindset of the speaker. The one who is angry is only releasing what is misunderstood within themselves. The one who mocks is only hiding the wound inside their heart. The one who judges is only reflecting insecurity in their own mind. And when you can see that, you no longer get pulled into that invisible battle. In that moment, you become a lake, still and clear. The stones thrown in only create a few ripples and then dissolve in the stillness of the water. You begin to understand. You do not need to respond to be free. You only need not to carry anything, and you are free. Someone may ask, so is silence avoidance? No. True silence is not avoidance, but the strength of someone who no longer needs to prove anything. The weak are silent out of fear. The strong are silent because they understand. Because when your heart rests in stillness, you no longer need words to protect yourself. Your presence itself becomes the answer. Silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of wisdom. It is when you can hear others while still hearing your heartbeat. It is when you can exist in a noisy world while your heart remains quiet, like dew resting on a leaf. And then you realize something profound. When you are silent, the world begins to hear itself, because your stillness becomes a mirror. That reflects humanity's chaos. And sometimes, your silence is the greatest gift you can offer this world. When you have touched true silence, a very common misunderstanding can arise. You may think that you must always be gentle, always forgiving, always saying yes to prove that you are awakened. But the truth is different. Peace does not mean allowing others to freely cross your boundaries. Forgiveness does not mean letting someone hurt you again. And love does not mean losing the respect you owe yourself. Even the sun must be set in order to make way for the night. Even the ocean has shores to keep the waves from spilling endlessly outward. True love doesn't spill out like water from a broken cup. It flows within the rhythm of wisdom. People often confuse kindness with self-erasure. They believe that to be considered good, they must give endlessly, endure endlessly, and forgive everything. They say, "I just want to help." But beneath that is the fear of being abandoned, the fear of not being loved, the fear of being considered selfish, and so they provide until they are empty. They stay silent until they lose their voice. But listen, when you give from emptiness, you are no longer giving, you are self-destructing. A flower cannot bloom if it has no life left inside. A lantern cannot shine if its flame has gone out. That is why the first act of love is not opening, but knowing from where you are opening. If you open from fullness, that love nourishes. But if you open from lack, that love drains. Setting boundaries is not selfishness, but a form of wisdom, the wisdom of someone who knows how to protect their life energy. Like a gardener who builds a fence, not to divide, but to keep the flowers from being trampled, to give the soil time to regenerate after each season. You may welcome someone into your garden, but no one has the right to build a tent in your soul. You may love deeply, yet still be clear enough to say, "I need space for myself," because no is also a way of saying, "I love myself enough not to betray myself." And when you begin to live with clear boundaries, something magical happens. The world does not collapse as you once feared. It simply rearranges itself around your stillness. Those who no longer align with you will naturally drift away. Those who resonate with your peace will naturally stay. This is not a loss. It is life refining itself. You see, true strength does not lie in how much you can endure, but in knowing when to stop. Because only when you stop can you truly be present. And when you are deeply present, you no longer need walls to protect your peace, for your stillness becomes a natural wall. When others become angry, you do not react, not because you are weak, because you are no longer pulled in. When someone tests your boundaries, you smile and say, "No," not with coldness, but with the steady certainty of someone who knows their worth. This is inner sovereignty, a kind of peace that needs no assertion, no proof, only presence. Because once you truly stand in your stillness, you no longer need the world to respect you. You have already respected yourself. And then, at some point, when you have walked through enough seasons of the mind, have been angry, have forgiven, have let go, have understood, you will arrive at a very still space. Not the stillness you create through effort, but the natural quiet that appears when nothing needs to be proven anymore. No more, "I must be peaceful." No more, "I must forgive." No more, "I must be the one who understands." Only, "I simply am." And in that moment, everything seems to dissolve. The people who once made you suffer suddenly feel both distant and close. You no longer need them to apologize, because you realize they were merely unconsciously playing their roles in a much bigger play, just as you once played yours in a script written by your mind. When you can see that, you no longer hate anyone, nor pity anyone. You simply smile. A very gentle smile, like waking from a long dream and realizing it was all just a dream. The criticisms, the praises, the glances, the betrayals, the laughter, the tears, the arguments, the separations, all turn out to be just waves in the same ocean. And that ocean is you. No one left to blame. There's nothing left to cling to. No one left to forgive, because there was never two people in this game. only one stream of consciousness continuously reflecting itself through countless forms. You begin to see the world with different eyes. The one who angers you becomes a mirror. The one who saddens you becomes a lesson. The one who hurts you becomes the doorway back to yourself. Everything that once made you collapse now becomes the staircase leading you upward. And you understand. Every suffering has meaning when you are brave enough to look through it. Then one day, you no longer need to see anyone as a teacher. You no longer need to see yourself as someone healing. You no longer need to try to be a beneficial person, an awakened person, or a strong person, because those roles are also temporary costumes. When the final costume is removed, you stand there naked yet unashamed, because you are no longer anyone, and in that no one, you return to being everything. The ancients called this liberation, not liberation from the world, but from the illusion that you are separate from it. The world is still noisy. People may still be wrong. Life may still have wrinkles and scars. But now, you see it all with different eyes. You now view everything through the lens of selfless compassion, and you see there is no need to win. No need to be right. No need to be heard. Because your silence has become your voice. You begin to walk more lightly, not because life has become easier, but because you no longer carry anything. You no longer need to protect your image, no longer need to prove your worth, no longer need others to understand. Because those who truly understand you need no explanation, and those who need an explanation will never truly understand. At this point, you will smile. Not the smile of someone who has won, but a smile from someone who has stopped fighting. A quiet smile, as if you've just come home after a long, exhausting journey and finally realize that home was never far. It was always within you. The world continues its play. The characters continue to laugh and cry, love and hate, win and lose. And you sitting in the audience, watching it all, smiling in stillness. Because now you know no one and nothing can make you suffer once you no longer mistake the play for real life. And in the end, when everything you tried to hold on to dissolves into silence, you finally understand. Awakening is not something you gain, but rather, it involves letting go of everything that is untrue, not adding but subtracting, not climbing higher but going deeper. And in that depth, there is no right or wrong, no winning or losing, only a very gentle clarity. Where you look at the world and realize nothing has ever been against you. It has only been helping you see yourself more clearly. When you understand that, you stop seeking peace outside. Because peace is not a reward for those who are good enough, but the nature of those who have stopped seeking.